Going live. Are you live? Are you live? I sure hope so. Because we are. Welcome, everybody. Jeff Kravitz, 420 Live. It is Friday. It's Juneteenth today. I'm sure everybody knows what it is because our president taught us all about it the past couple of weeks. We want to thank our wonderful and supreme leader for keeping us clued in on all things having to do with how America emancipated slavery and how that all worked out. I think you learned about it, Mr. President. The rest of the people seem to be pretty clued in. And it's amazing to see what's happening in our country, how we've taken the streets. And today in Los Angeles, there's no shortage of a dozen different protests going on. And people are fed up. They've had enough. So they're out there. So be careful if you're out there. You know, I think we get more accomplished with peaceful protest, gets the message across. Once it goes to violence, everybody focuses on the violence. I understand that it doesn't always end up that way. So do what you can out there, folks, and keep it going. Keep the pressure on. You know, we have to make it till the beginning of November with this pressure. It's not no time just because the polls are whatever. It's time. Everybody should be registered to vote. HeadCount is one of the subjects we're going to talk about today. My guest, Marc Brownstein, is one of the founders of HeadCount, and he and his partner, Aron Magner, are here from the Disco Biscuits. And we are going to talk about a show that they're going to do coming up. These bands are all coming out of hibernation now. They've been on a forced hiatus. It's probably been, I know one thing, it's been almost probably 100 days since the guys have played a live show because we're about 100 days into this lockdown now. So at least that, if they were on road, we'll find out all those details coming up. But, you know, it's encouraging to see everybody figure out a way to come out and play. And my friend Matt Wilson is in Atlanta today and shared a picture of the big concert happening in Atlanta. We know tomorrow there's going to be 20,000 people packed into a venue with 20,000 people with the option of not wearing masks in the middle of America where the numbers are just spiking through the roof. So we're going to see how that plays out. We're all guinea pigs right now. Everybody's kind of testing. You see what's happening in Florida and in Arizona and Texas where the numbers are going up to the people that have been out. It's a mess out there, and I really don't know what to make of it. And totally honestly, it's not my place. I just want to make sure you're all tuned in. And now we're going to part the reality and dive into what we love. All of us are music fans here. We all love music. And I think one of the most frustrating things for all of us, I saw my friend Jason Miller posting that he hasn't gone 100 days without a concert in probably 30 or 40 years. And I kind of feel the same way. Music has been something, if I didn't see music once a week, I was kind of looking for anything in town. I'd be hitting Jam Base to see what was playing or who was coming in and who was within a 60-mile radius, you know, and get in the car and go for a ride and see some music. And going out is a total anomaly now. It's starting to happen. We see the bars opening up. We see the restaurants opening up, at least here in Los Angeles. I don't know what it is where you are, but we're back to some kind of weird new normal now. So everybody's getting back at it. And the most important thing is that we all stay safe. California now has a mandatory mask law when you're in public. And, you know, masks aren't comfortable. They're painful. You know, they're hot and they're bothersome, but, you know, being intubated with respirators even worse. So wear a mask, and you know it's 6 feet, and then you wear a mask is what they say. I'd give it 10 or 12. You know, you got to make up your own rules here because we don't have anybody really steering this ship. So take care of yourselves. Now let's get into a little distraction. Our guest today with a seminal jam band, the Disco Biscuits, around since the mid 90s. They've been at it on the scene, entertaining tens of thousands of people. Camp Bisco, almost 2 decades, I think almost maybe over 2 decades now. Camp Bisco, Marc Brownstein, Aron Magner, both forces on the scene. Let's say hi. Hi, Aron.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Brownie. Brownie, you can hear me?
Jeff.
Oh, good.
How's it going, my friend?
Good. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Tell us what is going on with the let's get into the big story right now. The headline, the thing I'm seeing all over the Twitter and everything is that you guys are playing a stadium. Have you played at stadium before?
We've played underneath the spectrum at the very beginning of our careers for Philadelphia Phantoms, like minor league hockey. And I think, though I'm not sure about this, that we will win the award for the least amount of tickets sold to a stadium show.
I was thinking what a ball buster that is to finally get a stadium show and all of a sudden be like, there's nobody in here but us.
Yeah, but you have to sort of think about it like, like it's kind of like our version of Pink Floyd live at Pompeii. You know what I mean? You're going to this place and you're just doing this massive thing with nobody there. It's kind of poetically beautiful.
So this is the second show like this?
In a stadium like this?
Yeah. Yeah, didn't they do flogging
Dropkick Murphys played up at Fenway Park a couple weeks ago.
Oh, so this is the first one in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So you guys must be so excited to play.
I mean, we haven't seen each other, but been able to play music with each other since the tease that happened on March 12th. I mean, we were March 11th. We were all set up at the Fillmore, ready to go, walked in for sound check, and then we were the ones that pulled the plug before Philadelphia did. We were like, this just isn't right. It hasn't been feeling right. And now it definitively does not feel right. And we pulled the plug. And then 24 hours later, Philadelphia, officially put the lockdown on. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you guys had the whole place sold out, ready to go, stuff on your sound check.
Stage fully set up and waiting for us. Yeah.
I never actually went to stage. I was in the back. I was in the backstage and never even made it up onto stage, but it was like Aron says, specifically the band members got together to be in the room there for the first time since this coronavirus thing had hit. It was, we were there together for the first time over this, as this crisis was developing. And when it was the band members, the four of us looking at each other in the room, we all agreed, like, it just didn't feel like it was responsible to put a mass gathering on when you knew what was coming, and there was concerts were still happening, arena shows were happening that week. The Brothers show was that week. Billie Eilish had just started her tour down in Miami, and HeadCount was out on tour with Billie Eilish, and it was just, my kids had tickets to the Billie Eilish show at the Wells Fargo Center that Friday night. So our run started on the Thursday night at the Fillmore and was for those 3 nights. And we finally, Barbara was like, all right, let's pull the plug. Somebody call our agent and manager, and let's pull the plug on this thing. And really, since we're all here, the idea was to immediately just go into the studio and make the best use of the fact that the band was all together and we have all these new songs and we wanted to get them down. We have an album on the way, and it ended up being a really, really useful use of our time. It was great, productive weekend. We banged out a bunch of songs in the studio that sound great. It's some of the best stuff that we've done in the studio in decades. It's so we came out on top after that weekend, but it was a tough call. We had just canceled a bunch of shows at the end of our last tour. I had my eye surgery and I went in, and we had just canceled shows, the last shows we had. So 2020, we played the first 3 nights of 2020 out in Chicago. And since then, it's just been one thing after another, obviously. This one affecting not just us, but the entire community and, of course, globally across the whole world.
Yeah, it's been an up thing. Hey, Brownie, let's try it without the headphones. They're saying that your volume's a little low. Do you want to just try it with the volume on your thing there? See if it's a little bit better.
How's that? Is that better?
Much better. Yeah. Okay. Now we can hear you. Thank you. That was Daniel Hova there. The Hova with the turn Brownie up.
Hova.
What was that ever a thing for you guys to turn Brownie up?
No, we got a PA system. Everybody hears Brownie.
No, It's not a thing. No, I jack it, you know. And we have our sound guy. He's like mixes everybody really well. There's nobody can't be heard.
So how did this show come about?
He's not like Joel. It's not like a turn Joel up type
That was the sub.
Yeah.
I thought Kravitz knew that. We didn't even have to say that out loud. We knew what we meant was, unlike Joel, people can hear everybody in the Biscuits. Okay. Of course, we make fun because we love Joel Cummings from Humphreys McGee, everyone.
Indeed.
How did the show come about? I mean, Aron?
Manifestation.
Well, I'm sure you guys were looking for some way to play, right? You're on Philadelphia area, or
no,
Barbara's out west, right?
So this is the real quick of it. So Barbara lives in LA, and our drummer is in South, and Alan is in South Denver, and John and his girlfriend and the baby wanted to introduce the baby to their parents, you know, that nobody's met yet, right? Baby was pretty much born, you know, in quarantine, a couple of months after quarantine. And they were planning a trip. And then it was like, okay, if we do this, we're still talking about it. You know, we may as well make it worth our while and try and get out some content, basically, you know, if the three of us can be together. So what is that content going to be? I don't know. Maybe we get together in, like, you know, Mark and I live a mile away. So maybe it's one of our living rooms that we gather around and, you know, acoustic guitars and a piano or something of that nature. And I was like, oh, what if we do an iconic, you know, if we're just doing an acousticy thing, let's do, like, with the three of us, let's do an iconic Philadelphia location, like maybe the top of the Art Museum steps or the Love Park or something like that. And Drew Grancelli, who's our day-to-day, was like, I've got a contact at the Philadelphia Phillies. And I was like, well, that would be cool, you know? And he called the Phillies, and the Phillies were immediately into it. They had a secondary call a day later, and everybody else on the Phillies team was immediately into it. And it just, I mean, it happened quickly, right? We announced it yesterday, but this is all something that started a week and a half ago, 10 days ago, and it snowballed really quickly. And then it was like, okay, well, we need to bring Live Nation into it. You know, at least let them know that we have this really cool partnership with the Phillies and Citizens Bank Park. And went straight to, you know, Michael Rufino, to the CEO of Live Nation, and responded immediately. And he was like, I love this idea, whatever Live Nation can do. And copied Michael Campana, the COO of Live Nation. And they were like, we're in. What kind of help can we offer? Let's form a team. And that team has been forming. We brought in a charitable partner, which is +1 for Black Lives. And everything has been, you know, really going smoothly every single day. You know, more people, it's just cogs in a wheel that are turning perfectly. And so the messaging came out yesterday at 9 a.m. And with all of these amazing organizations between the Disco Biscuits, Live Nation, the Philadelphia Phillies, you know, everybody's marketing team and publicity team, you know, and +1, we've been able to really get the message out there pretty quickly. This concert's happening on Tuesday. We announced it yesterday. You know, it's got legs.
So let me ask you the $64,000 question. You got a whole stadium there. You can't bring a couple hundred fans in, or is that just too much? Just creates a whole nother.
Nothing. It's like, now we need to message that, you know, no fans can come, not a parking lot scene. There's not even going to be anything that you can hear. There's no speaker stacks. There's no concert, you know, so it wouldn't be worth it.
Don't come.
Don't come.
Don't come. It's not going to be great if you come. If you come and try to have a tailgate, they're going to kick you out of there. If you try to listen to the show, you're not going to hear the show because we're going directly into a stream. So that really the place that this works for you is going to be at home on your couch, or probably I would prefer if you were not on the couch, because we like when people are dancing to the music. But yeah, you know, Aron, I couldn't have said it any better than he did. This happened so fast and furious, and of course, you know, we're living in the strangest of times, and if we were going to be able to get together, we knew that we wanted it to have a charitable angle. We wanted the first thing that we did when we came back to be something where we could raise money. This organization, +1 for Black Lives is amazing. What they do is they take a surcharge on top of tickets normally for other events, and then they disseminate them to organizations, national and local organizations around country that are there to help, raise up the marginalized communities. So some of the organizations that we're working with for this show, Soil Generation, Urban League of Philadelphia, Equal Justice Initiative, the Movement for Black Lives, the Bail Project. I think that those are some of the recipients through this initiative. And it's the time. Listen, you know it and I know it, and it's like you don't have to look very hard to find the systemic racism in any of the different pillars of society. It's not like this stuff is buried very deep here. You just have to kind of take a look at it from the healthcare to the housing to education to banking and mortgage availability across the board. Right into the entertainment industry. All the industries, you can see this, and it's like you were saying. I don't know if it was on the pre-show or right at the beginning of this show. It's like it's not the time to let up. It's the time to get, if you're getting on board with this, to get on board. This is the beginning. We're in the introduction of the book, of changing the system here. This is just chapter one. And it's going to be a long book, and it's going to take a lot of work by everybody, whether it's raising money here or educating yourself or educating other people or getting out to the protests or using your platform and having a fan base and educating your fan base on issues that they may not know about. There's even if it's as simple as, sharing some posts about redlining, just so people get a sense of what the history is, or the history about Juneteenth, talking about what today is. There's so many posts that were out today that there was a huge history lesson there for people to take, if you wanted to take the 25 or 30 minutes and really read and find out what this holiday is about, and so that you can, say happy Juneteenth to one of your friends and know what the hell you're even talking about, So we're in the middle of a paradigm shift, and so, these are the times, Kravitz. This is what we're doing. I'm glad that we're at least able to do, for the Disco Biscuits, are able to do their part here at this first show. And obviously it's an ongoing fight.
So you were talking about new music. So before you played the Fillmore, you had new music, or was it the stuff that you wrote that weekend instead of the Fillmore is what you were saying? Yes?
No, John came in earlier in the fall with like 25 new songs, and we put about 12 or 13 of them into rotation and played them out on that first tour back, November, December, and the beginning of January. When we hit at the beginning of March, we chose a handful, 5 or 6 of the songs. There's still another 5 or 6 that we're playing that we want to get in and record, but we took 5 or 6 that we thought would be a good place to start and put them down. And we basically went in, we were like, all right, we've done albums so many different ways, from having it all done on like electronic beats, like They Miss the Perfume, or the first album, or the second album, Uncivilized Area. We went in and just jammed our songs, I Man and A C to Be, over and over again, 5 or 6 takes. And when we got a really beautiful jam, we built the studio track off of that take. And so we kind of took that approach here in the studio this time. We went in, we took the songs, we ran it 5, 6, 7 times, different beats, different jams, and now we're taking the best of those versions and creating the studio tracks out of that.
Does Barber have another 24 songs since the past 100 days, though? I mean, I'm sure he hasn't stopped writing.
I'm sure that he does. I mean, the one wrinkle in that, as we all know about this, is he just had a baby,
right?
About 10, 12 weeks ago. So you know what that's like. The first 8 or 10 or 12 weeks throws you off of your routine, whatever your routine is.
Of course. And his routine was thrown off already because he was home. So it's kind of an interesting time. I have a lot of friends that are having babies right now, which is very interesting too. And I'm seeing them all on Instagram. It must be a very interesting time to be home and not have any kind of outside influence where you're pulled into work or anything like that. So I'm sure he's aching to play though also. And I'm sure all you guys are. Have you gotten together yet?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So 2 days rehearsals, and then Monday you're setting up at the ballpark.
Monday's our last day of rehearsal. Sunday will be John's first Father's Day.
Father's Day, right?
And then Monday, another day of rehearsal, and Tuesday right into the ballpark. You know,
Great.
everything live from there.
So 2 sets,
one set,
and what time is it going to start?
7:45 p.m.
So light show? You doing a whole thing, or what are you doing?
It will be the lights of the field. Will be the
lights
players,
of the field.
Literally the players on the field. You know?
Wow. You know, you meet Ronnie Delsner every time you're back at the Garden. I'm sure you guys have met him over the years. And I was talking to him about the Beatles playing Shea Stadium. And I was like, those days they had no lights, right, Ronnie? And he's like, they had 2 light poles with 1 light on each light pointing at the band.
They went through the speakers of Shea Stadium, you know?
Right, through the PA.
Like those speakers, not like even speakers on poles or concert speakers. The speakers of the baseball stadium is how the Beatles were played. Crazy.
I mean, the long history of rock and roll acts in stadiums. You know, that's like the gold standard, right? To be the stadiums. I mean, I don't like to see baseball stadium shows. Do you guys? What do you think?
I mean, I haven't seen that many. You know, in the last 20 years, there haven't been that many bands playing stadiums. Like stadiums was like a late 80s, early 90s kind of phenomenon. And I know that it's back. Like I get.
Well, yeah, the Stones were playing baseball stadiums last time they were here, and Pearl Jam, and also there's another band.
I saw Fish at Wrigley Field, and it was a great time because you know it was Fish.
Well, it's just weird the way stadiums are laid out because you can't play on the infield usually, and you guys are playing on the infield, right?
On the dirt of the infield.
You're in the dirt of the infield.
Yeah,
that's going to be great.
Yeah,
you got to be so excited to play. First of all, I can't imagine you guys not playing for 100 days. Has that ever happened with the Disco Biscuits? Like Disco Biscuits never broken up in your 20 years, have you?
Sure we have.
Yeah?
Yeah, you wouldn't be a band unless you break up a dozen times. Yeah.
Every year.
We broke up July 4th, 1995. The first day Magner was in the band. I quit.
Yeah, that happens.
I was like, fuck this. I'm out of here. I went to see Fish at Sugar Bush. I came back 2 days later, and then I rejoined the band. But in that time, the Disco Biscuits played their first show with Magner with a different bass player. Yeah, Paul Gammons, I think was his name, right, Aron?
That's some good trivia right there.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the first time. I mean, we literally didn't get 8 hours into being a band before we broke up.
So basically, you're telling me you wanted to go to Sugar Bush more than you wanted to play.
I mean, I had emotional issues.
Historically, good call. I mean, historically, you look back, that Sugar Bush run was pretty epic. 94 Sugar Bush?
95 Sugar Bush was also epic.
Yes. Good shit. Like how much of an influence were those guys on you guys? Like, would you think that was the influence the Biscuits had the most of was Fish?
For different members of the band had different, number one influences. Aaron's number one band was the Grateful Dead all the way, the whole way through. It unequivocally never flinched about that. For me, Fish was my favorite band. They were the band that they showed me what the path could be. You know what I mean? It was like you looked at them and said, okay, I can see how this is even a possibility by looking at these guys. It gave me the inspiration to believe in myself that could be what I wanted to actually be could happen. Just if nothing else, having that massive platform that existed already. That with the Dead and Fish, that there's this demographic of fans that loves the kind of music that you love. And so, yeah, for me, that was it. But if John would probably say something like Van Halen, Sammy would say Bad Brains, that in the early days, the Biscuits had influences coming from all different sides, which is why there's all these songs that are almost like punk songs, like Mindless Dribble and Robots and name another one that's like a punk song, Aaron. There's so many of them. Like, you know, the heavy metal kind of 7-Eleven, like heavy metal influence in the, not in like the 80s heavy metal way, like how Humphreys has heavy metal, but more in like a raw punkish kind of a metal. So, and that came, I think, from, you know, Sammy and Barber and the kind of music that they were into. But yeah, you put that all together, and then we all kind of got into electronic music at the same time, going to the same parties, and that just naturally started to seep into the you know, the dynamic of our interplay live.
Who is all the songwriting by Barber?
He's done about 60 or 65% of the songs. I do something like 30 or something, and Magner's done like 10 or 15% of the songs over the years. It's always kind of shifting a little bit, but yeah, Barber's written the bulk of the songs over the years.
And then do you work them out? The musical parts get worked out separately in the studio over the lyrics? I mean, I'm sure you're constantly trying to dial it in, right? Like when you're writing, or is he pretty much?
We've used every method, like, you know, like sometimes Barber would come to us with a song, like, you know, overture, and like every note was written of my part. He'd be like, here's the bass lines, and it'd be all like classically like composed. And I love that. That's like the best thing that could possibly happen. The guy comes and he's like, just play this. But I think the best bass lines I have are bass lines that Barber's written. Like, you know, the bass line at the end of the Very Moon Funk, or like the middle section of House Dog Party Favorites. Like super funky, sick, cool, like bass lines, the kind of which I would never have come up with. You know, the Very Moon is in the mode of Lydian, which, you know, we don't want to get to. I've had 4 lessons earlier today, so I don't want to get too theoretical, but, you know, when he wrote that, I wasn't on that tip yet. You know, he really was like kind of doing things with a heightened understanding of how the music laid out back then when we were 20.
Right. He was educating you basically.
But we had a lot of songs. Yeah, oh, definitely. I learned almost everything I learned, you know, in those first 5 years. I learned from him playing on, you know, as a stringed instrument right next to me. You know, he taught me right to like one of the first jams we ever had pre-Biscuits, like 2 years before the Biscuits started. And he like sat me down, and he played some Jane's Addiction songs for me and was like, this is called phrasing. You know, and it was like, you know, what, that stop or something, boom, 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 and he's like, here's the beginning of the phrase, here's the end of the phrase, this is a phrase. And I was really like a beginner learning how to play music when we first met and started, you know, and you know, down to everything, down to pushing to do things that you're not good at, because the more you do them, the better you get at them. You know, I mean, he was on this like heightened understanding of how to become a master in his teen years, you know, which, you know, ahead of the time.
Yeah. Well, when I saw all you guys, did all of you go to University of Pennsylvania? I mean, all you guys, and you all graduated?
Nope.
Nope.
Just Sammy, right? And the joke was that it's one of the reasons he's the professor, is one of his nicknames.
Right. He went into medicine, right? He went to
share his degree with us.
Wait.
I got it. And then interestingly enough, so Barber was an electrical engineering major, and whatever subsect of, you know, the electrical engineering school. And then the Biscuits started doing the Biscuits, and we all did our thing and stopped caring about school and everything like that. And like a year or two into touring, when college was kind of like, you know, an afterthought at this point, they mailed him a diploma. It turns out he got enough credits in some other degree of electrical engineering that they gave it to him.
Wow.
They changed the requirements for his major. His actually under the new requirements, he qualified, and they sent him a degree.
Well, very heady school. I went to Temple, so you guys were on in the high end. I was down there in North Philly in the low end. I mean, both those neighborhoods were pretty dicey. West Philly wasn't much better than North Philly. You know, it was crazy. Ben, you all grew up in that hood? You all grew up in Philadelphia?
Just me.
Just you?
Yeah.
Aaron did. I grew up in a combination of Brooklyn and Manhattan.
Oh, so you were not that far. East Coast mentality. Talk a
Yeah,
little bit. Go ahead.
Go on.
I want to talk about Camp Bisco because I saw that it started in '99, and that's kind of wasn't it the same year Coachella started? Like right around then? Close?
Yeah, it was right around
that's a question you need to answer. I would vote Disco Biscuits if you were to give me the option right now, but I have no idea what year Coachella started. Never been.
You never been?
Never been.
It's a beautiful fairgrounds. I mean, the line about there at the Empire Polo Fields, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been for a show. It's just that whole scene is blowing up. So, but you guys started in '99, which I thought was really inspiring because that's before Bonnaroo and before anyone else had a festival. What was the inspiration for Camp Bisco?
Desperation.
You know, we needed, in order to get a great slot at a festival, we had to start our own festival. Like, in order to play our show, which our show is like a sound and lights experience, you know? And so when you get on a festival and it's 1:30 in the afternoon every single time, and first of all, 1/10 of the people are getting to see you, and they're getting to see a half of your show, or if that, you know? And so for us, it was just about putting out the best product and getting the best time slot. It was like, if we're going to get a great time slot, then it's going to be our own festival. And then in terms of the bridging the gap, there were like raves at the time. There were rock festivals, but there really weren't any festivals that had rock bands playing and then DJs would start up. And we really wanted to, we wanted to change that game. We wanted to be the first to do that. As far as I know, it's on the early end of festivals that mix rock and roll and DJs. And what's funny is the Biscuit fans would come out, and then we put on these amazing drum and bass DJs after us at 1 or 2 in the morning. And like, it was the exact opposite. Like the fields would just drain. Like there'd be like 20 kids left watching like these amazing drum and bass DJs like Reed Speed, and it was a little bit ahead of its time. It was in that weird period in between when electronic music was huge in the early 90s and when it blew back up in 08, 09, 2010 and into the 10s. So we kind of hit in this down period of electronic music in the Northeast, the Northeast and across the states entirely. So it was, good forethought. When the electronic music finally hit, then Camp Bisco blew up because we never wavered. We were like, this is what we're doing. This is what our brand is. This is how we're going to put it forth. And we just kept marching the DJs out at one after another and producers. And then one year, finally, that style of music like just caught on nationwide. And, it went from in the time from when we were booking the festival and Skrillex was being booked for like $5,000 to $8,000 as like a tent side stage DJ, like late night DJ, to when Camp Bisco hit later that year. Skrillex was the headliner. Pretty Lights and Bass Nectar had been moved from the side stage to headliners of the festival, and the rest is history.
Well, you guys are right there because '99 was the first year of Coachella. Thanks, Rick, for that.
There you go.
Ricky Siegel, big music fan. He's always tuning in. Toby Blumenthal had a question. Walther's Festival. Was that Robert Walters or
Tim Walther? So this was
Tim
another
Walther.
interesting thing. So he did All Good Music Festival.
Oh, sure.
Definitely one of the first mom and pop festivals, and Tim's the best, and his festivals were great. But it's actually like what Mark was saying before, one of the impetuses for why we wanted to start our own festival. Aside from we wanted to play in the dark and be able to have our production and have the right time slot. At that point in time, the All Good Music Festival and these other smaller, festivals that was just starting, this festival circuit in America was just starting, was kind of like a hodgepodge of bands, so that the promoter could kind of like, gather as many fans of different genres of music as possible. So you would have, this like reggae component, and this still happens at festivals, but reggae component and a rock component and maybe a hip hop component at the time. And it was kind of like a very much a hodgepodge, and it wasn't cohesive of a lineup. And it was one of the missions that we had, whether we knew it at the time or not, was we wanted to curate a festival. And you look at the lineups of the festivals that exist today, and they're very well curated, whether it's a band-run festival. And, I feel like Camp Bisco is one of the very first, band-oriented festivals or band-run festival. But these festivals that are run by, some amazing companies, some amazing organizations and individuals really do an incredible job curating it. And that was one of our missions with Camp Bisco from the first place.
And I guess the fish festivals too, of course, right? Because they were happening around then.
Well, what other bands were playing the fish festivals?
No, that's what I meant. It was that's true. It was just Fish.
Right.
Just Fish, right? Yeah, Fish was throwing these massive events, but Aaron's nailing it here about what the impetus behind this all was about. But if you look at Camp Bisco 1, 2, we did a pretty good job of curating. Camp Bisco 1, this is early on. Sound Tribe Sector 9, 1999. Humphreys McGee was on Camp Bisco 1. Joe Russo was there with Fat Mama. And so we started out 21 years ago with a good, solid, you're still talking about all of those bands together, Biscuits, Humphreys, Sound Tribe, Russo, 856 people out in the middle of Pennsylvania. But 19 years, 20 years later, and those are the old friends now. They're still there. They're still all around. So, and if you look at Camp Bisco, if we had a year with, Humphreys and Sound Tribe and the Biscuits, it's another classic year.
How many people are going out there now?
Camp Bisco?
Yeah.
About 17, about 17 or 18,000 people, something like that. It's between 17 and 20,000, whatever the venue. What's the venue hold?
I'm not sure.
When we moved it out of New York and had to move it to Montage, the capacity kind of reduced, right? So the capacity at Montage Mountain, which is where we've done it for the last 4 years, is a reduced capacity from what it was at ILCC, which is where it was held for the 4 or 5 years prior to that. So, Camp Bisco in upstate New York was 25K. Camp Bisco now in Pennsylvania is 18 due to capacity.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jeff Gordon's saying something about quadraphonic sound.
Okay, Jeff's a visionary. Jeff is a visionary, a Philadelphia visionary, and the Disco Biscuits owe a lot to Jeff Gordon over the course of our careers, and it's awesome that we're partnering again with Jeff for this event on Tuesday. So thank you, Jeff. So Jeff had an idea to do quadraphonic sound at the Tweeter Center for New Year's Eve in Tweeter Center. Is that what it's called now? The one in Camden.
Camden, yeah.
Whatever.
It's called not the Tweeter Center, but it was the Tweeter Center when we played it. The Susquehanna BB&T.
BB&T.
Whatever the brand it is, but it's the Camden Amphitheater. And yeah, we put on an amazing New Year's show there with quadraphonic sound. And, like Aaron says, Jeff's been there since the very beginning with the Biscuits, from the earliest TLA shows, all the way through all those years at the Electric Factory. You say Jeff Gordon, and my image that pops up is him in the front row, like, of the Electric Factory. We're playing Run Like Hell, and we're just hitting the peak. And I look down and I see Jeff Gordon, in like a white denim jacket, hands in the air, just going in. And, that's like that's like a special moment for a musician when you look out into the crowd and you see the head honcho, the top guy in your industry, in your city, who's throwing these shows. He's not up in the office. You know what I mean? He's not at home. He's down there in the front row with his hands up in the air, soaking it in, taking part in the exchange of energy between the audience and the band. And that's a unique and special quality, you know what I mean, in a promoter. That's why he's Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot. But I'll tell you, the other promoter, and I had him on the show with Jeff, was Donnie Strasberg. I remember seeing him with Fish
See it with Don all the time.
dancing like a sweaty nut in the middle of all the fans. Went down on the floor in the middle of everyone. Strasberg drenched when he came out of there. And I'm like, these guys love music, and it's why they're in the business.
Strasberg, Shapiro, front row, hands in the air every time. If you are doing a show with Shapiro at the Cap or at the Brooklyn Bowl or whatever it is, front row, at some point you're going to look down and Shapiro's going to be there with his hand up in the air, and the same with Strasberg. We had an epic 4-night run at the Fox Theater. It was our last time playing multiple nights there. I don't know do you remember what year it was? But every night, Strasberg right in the front. We coming off the stage every single time, walking us back down. Like, this was great. That's a special quality.
And they're hurting as much as we are right now because they love it just as much. And they've gone decades not having shows for 3 months. I probably, Jeff, just chirp in here. When was your last time you went 100 days without a concert? And what's the next step, guys? I mean, you got this show coming up. You got Barbara's got the baby. So I'm taking it that this wasn't a year where you had a lot planned anyway. It was probably a year.
We were yeah, paternity leave was over, and March 11th was the beginning of a big comeback, right? 2019 was a very big year for us, and then the baby came, and then starting March 11th and on and upwards, so everything completely dried up immediately. So,
wow.
I mean, and this is interesting. I mean, it's not like. It's frustrating because we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, I don't know where the fucking tunnel is, So everybody's throwing ideas out. And I've said this to Mark a million times, and he's echoed it back. Like, there's no bad ideas, And so what are the ideas right now? Reduced capacity, drive-ins, there's all these ideas. None are ideal. But you got to try and then see how it evolves. Even the way that artists are collaborating with each other now, it is not ideal. It hasn't been ideal since day one, and it's still not ideal now. But the product that the artists are able to put out in order to engage with their fans, in order to put something musical out where we can collaborate with each other, the product has gotten better. And you see it with the talk show hosts too. The restrictions that talk show hosts have of not having an audience to feed off of. Same thing with musicians, Not only can we not collaborate and listen and react, but there's no, audience and band participation. So talk show hosts have that same issue. But their art has gotten better. It was so uncomfortable the first couple of weeks watching Kimmel or any of these guys. And now, again, still not ideal, but the product is better. So, we work with the limitations that we have available to us. We evolve as artists. We continue to move forward, continue to engage with fans, and, one foot in front of the other and see where you end up, And along the way, there's like platforms that have started, there's the Live Lesson Masters platform, which started the day that shutdown seemingly happened. Different ways that we can connect with other people out there, connect with other artists, connect with our fan base, and hope that when we come out of this, which we will, that will be a more connected society.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. It's really good. You got to figure it out, though. Like, here, if I just turn my camera here, you can see this is my broadcast studio here for
your DJ set.
I have my last show. Tonight is my last show of tour. I've actually have been doing 3 nights, every weekend for the last 5 or 6 weekends. This is like my 15th or 16th DJ show of the month. I've never DJed near this much. Probably DJed as many shows in the last month as I had total in my whole DJ career. By the way, thank God I spent 5 or 6 years learning how to DJ and then took the time to do this, because I have been able to connect with my fans, and it's like Aron has said this, and I felt it from the first DJ night. I was so sick, like the day that I had to go live, and I didn't know if it was going to work, and I didn't know if this, because I'm here alone. We have to do all the graphics, all of the technical part, streaming, Streamlabs, OBS, all of the mixing of the audio and the video together to get out and then figure out what platform it's going to go on. How are you going to monetize it? I've been actually doing private shows, 10 Zoom windows. I know Joel has been doing this and Aaron's been doing this and Al from Mo and Rob from Mo have been doing this. You know, we've been booking these through livelessonmasters.com, these private events, and you get 10 Zoom windows with like 20 fans. And what happens is I go in, hang out with them for a half hour, drop a link for a private link into the chat, and then like 20 friends get to hang out in this chat and watch me on whatever TV they want to go for 90 minutes, pop back in, hang with them for like another half hour. It's such a fun night, but the nerves leading up to it, it's a lot like a regular show day. And so I've had all of these show days, but I haven't had to leave my house in order to do it. And actually my son has been doing the videographic work. Aaron's wife has been doing his light woman. And so we've had this like project, my oldest son and I together working these shows out every week. And it's really, I want to just like thank our fans for making this period that much less scary, because it was scary the day that it shut down. And Aaron is right. We were about to have our biggest year that we've had in a decade. And we were on the precipice. We were right on the first day of it. And it went away. And then it's like, what's going to happen now? How long is this going to go? How long before it starts to get scary? You know, for me, like as a full-time musician that hasn't really been touring over the last couple of years that much, how long can I go? And on day one, like Aaron said, it seems like Live Lesson Masters dropped on day one.
Hold on, I don't want to just gloss over that, because I remember seeing you at the very beginning when I started going live, and you were like, maybe I'll give a bass lesson or something. That you were like thinking this out loud on Twitter, like, what are you going to do with yourself? And you were like, maybe I'll start giving bass lessons. And the next thing I know, this Live Lesson master comes up, and that's a combination between you and Alicia Carlin, correct? That you guys came up with this brainstorm.
I could give you a 30 to 90 second background on it.
Thank you.
On Monday, I posted on Twitter and Facebook, would anybody even be interested in taking a lesson? I felt very vulnerable, Kravitz, going and asking my fans if they wanted to take bass lessons from me. It was a moment of vulnerability. I realized in that moment that for anybody to do this at this point, musicians who are live musicians, to take a pivot like that was going to feel that vulnerability. On the next day, I had 50 people who had reached out to me. Today, I had my 55th student at noon today, my 55th overall student. 50 people had reached out to me by that next Tuesday morning. I opened up Excel. I'm not a spreadsheet guy. I'm not great with spreadsheets. He's not a spreadsheet guy. Tech entrepreneur, not great at Gmail. So spreadsheets kind of baffle me a little, and I started to get it going. I'm a musician. I'm a creative type. Started to get this going, and 8 hours later, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to spend more time scheduling. How am I going to take payment? What platform am I giving these lessons on? All these questions were swirling through my mind. Next morning, I wake up, and Shapiro's head, his voice was in my head. He always, on every HeadCount call, anybody has any idea, Shapiro says, does it scale? Hey, does this scale? So his voice was like in my head. Does this scale? How does this scale? And that within a minute, the idea for Live Lesson Masters had like kind of come together in my I saw what it is, you know, not what it is now, but what it was on those first couple of days. I had a vision for what it was, called a couple friends that night, Wednesday night at midnight, after Alicia got done with her show when she was working with Dan. I called her up. She made a really funny joke. Big dick Nick with the pick goes to Chicago for a pick. She like made this joke about like Nick Foles getting traded to Chicago. I laughed really hard and I wanted to compliment her on her joke. Called her up and I just kind of told her, hey, I'm doing this thing, lessons in min, not good. Does it scale? How do we get this going? And she said to me, call me in the morning. Just call me in the morning. This is a really great idea. I want to be your partner. And basically I called her in the morning at 10 a.m. We were on, line getting our URL. We picked a name. We were like, we'll just pick a name. If we ever get to the point where this thing blows up and we can pick a snazzier name, we'll get a snazzier name then. We just need to do this as fast as possible. And I said, so who's going to develop the site? You know what I mean? And she basically was like, me. And she showed me a couple sites that she had made. And I went and started calling Aron, Robert Walter, Pony, Robert Randolph, Brendan Bailiff.
How many teachers you have now? How many musicians have you signed up?
There's 153 people on the roster right now.
And how many lessons have you given?
We have booked approximately 6,000 lessons.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're putting money in the pockets of the guys that are sitting home not working, and then you're giving a unique opportunity for the fans. And it's not just lessons. I saw that Chris Myers, you could just like hang out with Chris Myers and just hang out with Chris Myers.
Yeah, the Humphreys guys, they were the first people. Pony was the first one to point it out. He goes, well, how many people play bass in my fan base? But everyone would like to have a beer with me at 5 o'clock when work is over. Can I just make that an option? Yada, yada, yada. Meet and greets, And then Al was like, I would like to do a 1 to 10 private show. Can we do that? And it just started scaling. And I want to tell you, I have had the pleasure of experiencing from the side of the student. My wife, very thoughtfully, she went to Alicia and to Ben Baruch, and she set up a lesson for me with Oteil Burbridge from Dead & Company. And I spent 90 minutes with him. It was supposed to be 30 minutes, and we sat together for 90 minutes. And after about an hour, he asked me if I had a 6-string bass. And this is an exclusive here, Kravitz. And I said, no, I don't have a 6-string bass. And he's like, oh, man, you got to get a 6-string. If you had a 6-string, I can show you these charts that I have with these, advanced jazz voicings on top of them. And these are the charts right there. I can't really see them, but that was the charts. And he was like, get a 6-string, yada, yada, yada. Don't get a 6-string. Just text me your address, yada, yada, yada. Oteil, and I would like to thank him, sent me this incredible 6-string in the mail so that I could start working through the stuff so that we could get together and he could, give me a couple lessons myself. Now, I just want to say, as a fan of Oteil, he's one of my favorite bass players. He's definitely top 2 of my biggest inspirations and role models, people that I follow and look at in every aspect of his life and say, I want to be more like Oteil in how I play. I want to be more like Oteil in my discipline. I want to be more like Oteil in how I am as a human being, off of stage, personally. He's a role model to me. He always has.
We like Oteil.
We're friends, but getting the experience of getting to go one-on-one with a musician that you're a fan of, obviously it went into this crazy place where now I have Oteil's Vita Blue bass in my house.
Was that one of his old basses that he sent you?
He said, he was like, you know what? I used to send 6-strings to people all the time. I hope he doesn't mind that I'm sharing this, but he said, I used to send 6-strings to my students. And recently somebody sent me one back. It's in storage. Just text me your address. I'll send it to you. So 2 days later, he goes, sends me a picture. 2 days after that, the FedEx slip, I opened it up and I took the thing out and it's got the tape on it. Like, where they tape like for going on tour, and it says Vita Blue on it.
Whoa.
So I was like, he was like, it's just going to be a cheap bass. Don't get excited. It's going to be like a $500 Carvin, nothing special. Maybe you'll get lucky and it's a modulus. Who knows, And it says Vita Blue. And I was like, Vita Blue. So I open it up and it's this custom luthier named Keith Roscoe from North Carolina who makes these incredible, beautiful basses. So it's changed the whole way that I look at the instrument to have the extra string and, and just like going deep. It's been a really long time since I've spent 35 to, 50 hours a week practicing on the instrument, studying, learning, examining it. In order to teach, you have to learn.
Yes,
You know,
I'm sure that's part of it, is how much you guys are learning from your students, because you're having to go back to fundamentals about your instruments that you probably gave up caring about years ago.
Jeff, I have not learned this much in such a small period of time about music or my instrument since I was in jazz school at the New School in 1990.
And OBS and Streamlabs and all these other things that we're learning, Zoom and everything else. It's like every time I want to learn something, I just sit down with the computer and I go into Google and I'm like, how do I? And in 20 minutes, I'm an expert.
Yep, it is great. And you know what? We were a little bit complacent. Now we've been forced to push the envelope a little bit, to get out of our comfort zone and to learn what the people around us have been doing.
Right. And, you know, we're all communicators, and it's just a different way to communicate that we're learning in this kind of pandemic that we're in. So we're coming into the end of the hour. This has gone so fast because there's so much, like you said, Brownie, we have so much to talk about. But one of the most important things I want to talk about is right there on your shirt. And I'm going to pull up the website right now, and that is HeadCount.org. So talk a little bit and quickly about how you got involved with Andy with this, because you're one of the founders, and how important it is for everybody to get involved and vote.
Yeah, well, you know, credit where credit's due. Andy identified that we had a platform. You know, I mean, that was the first step. Was Andy came to me and was like, "Hey, dude, you guys have a platform, and we've got to figure out a way to use it in a positive way, and say no more." Right? I agree with right off the bat. I'm like, do tell, go on. What are you thinking? And this was in 2000, late 2003 or early 2004. And, you know, the whole business on the tail end of 9/11, I was kind of getting into, we were headed towards war. And for me personally, I was not buying the story, not so much about the weapons of mass destruction, but about tying together Iraq and Al-Qaeda and 9/11, that whole business. And it kind of seemed obvious that it was like the neocons wanted to finish the job from Iraq war in the early 90s. And there was actually, you know, they had made documentation that they were just waiting for something like 9/11 to happen so that they can take action. And it really, that bothered me. And so Andy came and was like, we have to do something. He was feeling a lot of frustration. And the words I remember him saying was, I turn the TV on and I feel like throwing my shoes at the TV. I get so frustrated. What could we do? And he said, I'm going to think about it. And he called me back the next day. And Andy could probably tell the story better, of course. But
well, we've had him on. He has told the story. So I just want to get your perspective.
The gist of it was he wanted to do something nonpartisan. He didn't want to divide the fan bases up. He wanted to find a way to encourage participation and fight what we perceive to be a basic general apathy about all things political in the jam band world. It just felt like there was an apathy. There was a certain sense of things are good for us and this world, and we don't have to worry too much. And we wanted to fight that, you know, kind of, I guess, really what that is privilege, you know. We wanted to fight against that the privilege that everybody has in that we had then in the jam, and the jam band scene's an excessively privileged scene if you really take a look at it.
Well, yes, of course, to go on tour and not have a job, you have to have no money. Let me ask you, how is the sign up going? Are you seeing a big increase since all this turmoil has started?
Well, for HeadCount, one of the hard things is our whole business model, you know, is based around
concerts.
Well, it's based around concerts, you know. So we're like everybody, we're in the process of pivoting right now. We have an initiative that is sending people out with QR codes to register people to vote at the protests. So, you know, Andy will identify, where are people going? People are going to the protests. Let's be there. And, you know, so HeadCount has pivoted that way. And, you know, another huge pivot for HeadCount was starting the Cannabis Voter Project and just trying to do what we did in the music world, in the cannabis world, you know, and take that energy of a massive community and try to see if we can excite voters around a generally nonpartisan issue, you know, that can prove to the voters, specifically voters who feel like, oh, voting doesn't matter, you know, non-voters, appeal to non-voters, kids who were like, hey, are you registered to vote? And we're at Electric Forest and they walk by and they're like, no, voting doesn't matter. Really? Did you smoke weed? Yeah, of course. Where are you from? I'm from Colorado. Well, do you know that it was at the ballot that weed became legal in Colorado? So voting does matter to you. Your lifestyle has changed specifically because of this. And just being able to identify a nonpartisan issue that we could get behind, where there are millions and millions of people that, you know, that can rally around this issue, just like, you know, pro-right, you know, like abortion rights issue or sensible gun laws or whatever on either side of the issue. You know what? We view cannabis like it could be a voting block. And
I agree.
CVP is active and out there. That's cannabisvoter.info. You know, and headcount.org. Go to headcount.org. Make sure that you haven't been purged from the voter rolls. Make sure that you are registered to vote. Find out, you know, where is your polling place. I can tell you this. My polling place changed for coronavirus. And for a lot of people, I bet your polling places have changed. Write letters to the legislators and push for vote by mail all across the country, because this is something that needs to happen. In Pennsylvania, you can vote by mail for any reason, but that's not so in every single state. So whether you're in Pennsylvania or anywhere, get out there and help us send the message that we want the politicians to change the laws everywhere so that people can have access to voting coming up in November. 2020, obviously, coming, you know, pre-COVID, you're looking at this election like it was going to be the most monumental election of our lifetime. If you're in, you know, now 3 months into the quarantine, can't see that that's what this is. You know, that's what this is. Let me just clue you in.
Well, your enthusiasm is palatable and contagious, and I think that we're all definitely on the same page here, and we're all behind HeadCount. We all want to see things change in this country. I think we've all had more than enough of our fair share of what's going on. Yeah. It's really hard to stomach. Magner, how's everything? How's everything with the twins?
Well, there's a third one now too.
Oh, so you have three. How old are they all?
Twins are 8.5, and the little guy's 6.
That's good. You're out of the infant years.
Yeah. It's actually, I mean, pretty reasonable for everybody to be like, you know, hunkered down. You know, they're all like a gang of wolves, and they're old enough where they don't really depend on us, you know, fully, and they're young enough that they're not locking themselves in their room and on social media all day long. So it's a pretty, you know, it's a good family environment considering.
And are you doing the Zoom schooling and all that kind of stuff?
School is out for summer. Which it was like immediate high fives. Not to say that I've done anything for school. It's all been my life. But it was immediate high fives. Like, oh, thank God school is done. And then it was kind of like, now what?
Yeah. So now what? Because summer camp on the East Coast, sleepover at least isn't happening, right?
Nah, I mean, I don't think so.
Are you a camp family?
The Brownsteins are definitively a camp family year after year, and this was the Magner's first year matriculating into the Brownstein camp ecosystem. So all three of my kids were going to the camp that Brownstein has introduced his kids to, that has introduced a bunch of our other friends to, and this was their first year. So I don't think it hit my kids as hard as it possibly hit Mark's, you know, kids coming back for a return. My kids kind of like didn't know what they were going into anyway, and it might have been a little bit of a relief, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of anxiety, and you know, for everybody, just, you know, humans don't like the unknown. You know, regardless of how old you are or how much, you know, worldly knowledge you have about how life works. You know, this like the unknown about our future is scary. The unknown about our, you know, our industry personally, or, you know, what's happening in, you know, society right now, what's going to happen in politics, what's going to happen with, you know, just our fellow man is fucking crazy. You know, there's like a lot of unknowns that's happening right now. So it doesn't do, our mental states that well. Right?
Not at all. Yeah, and also like, well, what are you guys going to do with the kids, Brownie? Your kids go every year. What are you going to do with them now this summer? You can't stay in Philly; it's too freaking hot. Jersey Shore, the rentals are like 40 grand a month. I heard.
Oh, interesting. They skyrocketed.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous because everybody knew that this was going to happen, and everybody went right to the rentals and started booking everything into Shore as soon as they allowed bookings again. You know, because they had a moratorium. So, what's the plan? What's your strategy?
I think that my family is probably going to head to our beach place up in New York for a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to go myself. I'm going, you know, I've got the second half of my surgery this Thursday coming up, and I'm just setting aside 4 weeks to do nothing and kind of recover from it. So the first half of that summer, you know, we're going to be hanging around. And, you know, the nice thing is I'm a COVID curve hawk. You know what I mean? Like over the last couple of weeks, every time one of my students comes onto the Zoom, I'll be like, hey, how's it going there in Illinois? Hey, let's just find out. And I'll go on Google and be like, new COVID cases, Illinois. And we'll look at the curve together. And I'll be like, hey, pretty good fucking job down there. You know, today I had a girl that was in North Carolina, and I was like, hey, Lauren, I'm not feeling that good about this curve over here, you know what I mean? But in Pennsylvania, you know, the social distancing and the quarantining for the most part, you know, we're moving in the right direction, and people are starting to go out, but it's a very slow opening. I don't know what's going to happen this summer. I really don't know, like how much longer this is going to go on for. At some point I may hijack Magner's pool, you know, like, hey, Magner, stay inside the house. You know, we're going to jump in for a couple minutes. Like, you know, I don't know. It's going to be tough. My kids have let it out. I mean, my daughter really, somebody said the word camp the other day and she bawled for like 30 minutes straight. And it's like, it's hard. You know, we're adults. This is the weirdest, strangest, like, you know, probably like most traumatic. Like, I read somewhere that this is like it's like a traumatic event, but it's happening in slow motion. You know, it's like unfolding in slow motion, but it is a traumatic event for everybody. At 47, I've been through traumatic events throughout the course of my life,
but not like this though.
This is really, really, really hard on a 15-year-old who's going into the best summer of their entire life, or, you know, a 13-year-old girl who's, you know,
wait, how about my son? He turned 21, and as soon as he turned 21, they closed every bar in the world. Hey, listen, so guys, this show's free, right? People just tune in, and you're recommending donations?
Yeah, we're asking, please donate.
I love it. And I think we're all looking forward to seeing you guys play. I'm excited. I'm so glad you made time. Brownie told me today was his busiest day of the whole quarantine, but he made time for us to come on. And Magner, I love you guys. You know, we're all family, and it's great to see you. And I can't wait to see you all in person, and where we can hug and smoke doobs and do the normal thing.
I look forward to that.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming on, and good luck on Tuesday. We're all going to be tuning in and walking in, and I'm going to talk to Mr. Gordon, and maybe first of all, I'm convinced Jeff Gordon agreed to this so he could be there, because he can go, right? He's Live Nation. He's the rep, so I bet you he was like, all right, I'll take care of this one myself.
There's like a manifest of who could be in this thing. It's kind of crazy. I hope that Jeff is on it.
Yes, I'm sure he is, and you're in great hands there. We really look forward to like seeing you guys. Take care of yourselves, and everybody tune in and HeadCount. Register to vote, people, please.
Thanks, Kravitz.
All right, guys. Thank you. See you soon. There you go, folks. We went a little bit over today, but you know what? Important stuff. Brownie, Magner, thank you guys. Hearts, minds in the right place, and talent. We look forward to seeing everybody Tune in. Check out the Disco Biscuits. Everybody have a great weekend. Sunday, we're going to do a Father's Day show, a very short Father's Day show to give away the bong and the mug. So make sure you go to my Instagram and register for that, because you're going to want to get one of those heady old school glass. Those tubes are beautiful. And then, we'll see you Monday. And then Tuesday, I was going to say, maybe we'll have Mr. Gordon call from his cell phone and give us a little backstage just before they go on of what's going on, so we could see kind of what it looks like not on the screen. But I'll talk to Jeff about that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks, everybody. Again, peace, love, happiness to everybody out there. The hug. Oh, have a good weekend. We're looking forward to a banging Friday night. Juneteenth, get out there. Put something in your head. Change it. Educate. That's the most important thing you can do. Educate, hydrate, medicate.